Now, lots of phone manufacturers like to slap their own launcher on top of Android to give it a bit more flavour, like Samsung's One UI or Vivo's hilariously named Fun Touch, which is most definitely overselling itself. But instead of that, you might just want a lovely bit of stock Android action. No clutter, no fuss, no buggering about. So here's my pick of the very best stock Android smartphones you can grab right now, and for more on the latest and greatest tech, please do poke subscribe and ding that notifications bell. Cheers! Now, one of the most obvious choices when it comes to stock Android blowers is Google's very own Pixel handsets. And right now you've got quite a few choices. The budget-friendly Pixel 7a, otherwise the Pixel 8 and the Pixel 8 Pro flagships, or if you're well minted, you can even grab yourself the Ponzi Pixel Fold. Now, most people should be as happy as a pig in premium quality fecal matter with the cheaper Pixel 7a, which is practically a plastic version of last year's Pixel 7 flagship. You got some of the best camera tech around at this price. Just point and shoot and let Google's clever processing produce a proper bloody good pic on your behalf. And the Pixel 7a has another benefit over its brothers as well, in that it's a pocket-pleasing 6.1 inches, one of the most compact smartphones of 2023. You don't get a premium glass finish here, but it still looks and feels great. And the Pixel 7a is water resistant too, so no worries if it does get super damp. Packed into that plastic frame is Google's own Tensor 2 brains, which can handle everything up to and including some hot Genshin action. Although speaking of hot, the phone can get a wee bit toasty at times. That OLED screen is simply a stunner, now boasting a creamy smooth 90Hz refresh rate, and you've also got a stereo speaker set up so your flicks sound as good as they look. And as this is a Google blower, naturally you've got a gorgeous stock Android finish with years of OS and security updates to come, plus Pixel exclusive features like the call screening, which is worth its frickin' weight in gold. And at this price, it's certainly one of the best mid-range Android smartphones around right now, never mind one of the best stock Android efforts. If you've got a bit more cash to spare and you want some of Google's latest tech, well, definitely check out those flagship Pixels. The Pixel 8 and the Pixel 8 Pro upgrade the primary camera sensor to a 50 megapixel Octa-PD effort, and both of these phones are great for everyday photography, while the Pro serves up a high-res mode and some proper good telephoto action to get some slick looking close-ups. Either way, you get a banquet of addictive editing tools for sprucing up your photos and your home movies. Yeah, the camera experience is still a wee bit buggy, even a full month on after the Pixel 8 and the Pixel 8 Pro have launched. And same goes for just Android 14 in general, so hopefully Google will release some updates and squash all these bugs sooner rather than later. But yeah, right now the Pixel 8 and the Pixel 8 Pro behaving kind of unpredictable, a bit like your drunk uncle at Christmas, just getting right on your tits occasionally. Both of these flagships sport Google's fresh Tensor G3 chipset, which offers an incremental performance improvement over the original. It's still not the best option for gaming, but those heating problems have mostly been sorted out. As for the media chops, well, these flagships serve up some stunning AMOLED screen tech, backed by respectable stereo speakers. Charging isn't particularly quick as usual, but at least both the Pixel 8 and the 8 Pro offer wireless charging support, and Google is serving up a full 7 years of OS and security updates for these things, seeing you right the way through to 2030. And then there's the excellent Pixel exclusive features, including classics like that call screening, and new bits like the safety tools and the AI wallpaper generator, which is madder than a barrel of drunk raccoons. And if you happen to have so much cash flying around that you have to stick it all in a Scrooge McDuck style vault, well, you might just about be able to afford the fresh new Google Pixel Fold. This sports a more compact design compared with rivals like Samsung's Galaxy Z Fold 5, with a squat 5.8-inch cover screen that's much easier to type on and use one-handed. Unfurl it and you've got yourself a proper big screen tablet style experience, although multitasking isn't quite as simple as on some rivals and apps do tend to bulk up a bit. The Tensor G2 chipset found in the Pixel 7a is once again running the show, so the Pixel Fold is reasonably good for gaming but does tend to heat up a bit under pressure. It is a shame you don't get that fresher Tensor G3 for sure, but the battery life is still pretty decent and the camera tech's respectable, certainly for a foldable phone. That 50 meg sensor is still pretty capable in low light, and you've got a decent zoom lens as well for once again getting closer to your subject. And at the time I'm shooting this video, I've done full reviews of all of these Pixel phones apart from the Pixel 8 Pro, as it's expecting some pretty big updates before the arse end of 2023. So that should hopefully be coming imminently. Now, if you find you're not swayed by a Pixel blower, but you really fancy yourself a compact handset like that Pixel 7a, well, definitely don't sleep on the Asus Zenfone 10. This sub 6-inch smartphone is proper wee, even dinkier than the Pixel 7a, but with the same super slick stock Android experience. Although you've also got the option of switching to Asus's own Zen UI, which adds a few extra bonus features on top. But don't judge the Zenfone 10 on its size, because that top-notch hand feel and effortless one-handed action is just the cherry on the huge f***off ice cream sundae. This is a flagship blower through and through, no questions at all, packing Qualcomm's Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 chipset for proper beefcake performance, as well as absolutely ruzzy incredible battery life, among the very best in this roundup. However, definitely don't expect the same level of software support that you would get from Google for one of its Pixel blowers, because with the Zenfone 10, Asus is only promising 2 OS updates and 3 years of security updates. And the camera tech isn't quite as good either, struggling in more taxing conditions. But if you're absolutely sick of enormous oversized blowers, and you want something a bit more hand-friendly without sacrificing that clean Android experience, well, the Zenfone 10 is a bloody solid choice. And if you're after a stock Android smartphone, another quite jazzy alternative is Qualcomm's Nothing Phone 1, which sports the most talked about rear end since Beyonce. Yes, all of the headlines are focused on that flash and disco bollocks known as the glyph light, and it is basically just a glorified notifications light though. But dive on beneath that literally flashy surface and you'll find yourself a solid Pixel 7a rival. Performance is much better here compared with the Pixel 6a for gaming, while you once again have a gorgeous OLED display, this time with faster refresh. That camera tech is pretty bloody good too, coming close to the Pixel a lot of the time and rarely chucking up a bad looking pic. And you've even got wireless charging support, something missing from Google's mid-range marvel. The Nothing launcher does tweak the aesthetics with a too cool for school dot matrix design, and the less said about those wallpapers and ringtones, the better. And otherwise, this is stock Android through and through, and you've still got a couple of years of OS updates and 3 years of security updates to enjoy. Gotta say, when I first reviewed the Nothing Phone 1, the battery life was pretty cack, and the face recognition worked about as well as a chocolate dildo. But thankfully, updates have sorted out these problems, so now it is one of the better Pixel rivals out there. And in 2023, Nothing released an upgraded version of the Nothing Phone, cunningly titled the Nothing Phone 2. Although perhaps a more accurate name would be the Nothing Phone Plus, because it's not actually replacing the original Nothing Phone, it's just upgrading the specs, adding in a few extra features, chucking in a bit more jazz, a bit more flair, a bit more all that. The Nothing Phone 2 is powered by the Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1, which means smoother performance for longer. While that slightly larger battery combined with the energy efficient chipset means you'll get a wee bit longer out of every charge. You've got a bigger and brighter display, you've got upgraded rear and front cameras, and that glyph disco lighting has been redesigned with even more zones than before and some nifty new features chucked in. It's certainly a worthy rival to those Pixel flagships, and my full review is live right now. Now, Motorola is another manufacturer who likes to stick with stock Android for its smartphones, and if you've got quite a lot of cash stuffed under your mattress, I would highly recommend checking out the Moto Edge 40 Pro. There's no 200 meg camera slapped on here unlike the previous flagship, but that 50 meg shooter does a proper job in even quite taxing conditions. And you've also got a 50 meg ultra wide and a telephoto snapper for a bit of flexibility. The Motorola Edge 40 Pro also serves up an almighty 6.67 inch 165Hz OLED screen and stereo speakers, slapped into a stunning and skinny chassis. And it's not just a looker either. This motor blower is powered by a Snapdragon 8 Gen 2, so it is a proper beefy bugger. There's also just about enough space for a 4600 mAh capacity battery with 125 watt wired charging, super nippy, not to mention wireless charging support and up to half a terabyte of storage. And last year's Motorola Edge 30 Ultra is still available, sporting very similar specs, plus that 200 meg snapper. So if you see a good deal on it, it could well be worth a punt. And while all Moto blowers sport that lovely stock Android experience, Motorola does kindly chuck in a few bonus features on top, courtesy of its Moto app. These include a dedicated gaming mode, you've got proper gesture support, all kinds of good stuff. However, Motorola is also unfortunately a bit toilet when it comes to OS and security updates. You can generally only expect a couple of years of software support even from its flagships. Now, if that's all too much tech for your face to handle, or you don't have quite enough cash for the Pro or the Ultra, well, no worries. You can always nab yourself the regular Motorola Edge 40 for almost 300 quid less than that Pro model. This more affordable option is powered by MediaTek's still pretty beefy Dimensity 8020 and boasts premium bits like a 144Hz POLED screen and a capable 50MP camera. The battery has only shrunk slightly versus that Pro effort, with 68W wired charging and 15W wireless charging to juice it back up. And all of that is wrapped up in a strokeably delightful vegan leather frame. And then there's the Moto Edge 40 Neo with its spangly, la-di-da hand-picked Pantone designs like Soothin' Sea and Caneel Bay, complete with a fancy fake leather arse. And it even smells a bit whiffy thanks to Motorola's partnership with a perfume company. They give it a couple of sprays before it leaves the factory. So of course, as soon as you yank it out of the box, your wife storms in and demands to know why you smell like a whore's handbag. Up front, you've got a gorgeous 6.55-inch 144Hz POLED display backed by stereo speakers. A rather cracking setup at this price. However, the Motorola Edge 40 Neo serves up more basic performance than its siblings with the MediaTek Dimensity 7030 running the show. There's still enough grunt to run the latest games, albeit on lower graphics settings if they're proper memory guzzlers like Genshin Impact. You've got a big old meaty 5000 mAh capacity battery for all-day play, and the wired charging is still pretty nippy at 68 watts, although sadly there's no wireless charging support this time. And that 50MP primary camera is fine for everyday photo shenanigans, if not quite as capable as the excellent Pixel 7a. So if photography is a priority for you, I'd say go Google instead. And if you're partial to a bit of bendy blower action, well, Motorola also serves up its own foldable in the RAZR 40 Ultra. This latest RAZR reboot is comfortably Motorola's best foldable, and indeed one of the best compact flippy phones you can grab in 2023. The Ultra model boasts a wangin' great 3.6-inch POLED cover screen with 144Hz refresh support, convenient for quickly fiddling about in any of your apps, or simply replying to messages without going to all the effort of actually unfolding the bugger. If you do actually put your thumb through the grueling exercise of flipping open this phone, well, your peepers will be greeted with a gorgeous 6.9-inch internal display. It's once again a gorgeous poppy display, this time with LTPO tech, so that refresh rate scales all the way up from bugger all to a silky smooth 165Hz, and that's backed by respectable stereo speakers. It's essentially the same slick stock Android experience you'll find on the rest of the Motorola mobile lineup, except with a few extra features chucked in for that cover screen, including some fun wee time wasters which are surprisingly addictive. The battery life is actually decent for a foldable if you're not too demanding. And yeah, that Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 may be getting on a wee bit, but it keeps everything running smoothly. It's only the less than fantastic camera tech and the fact that the price tag ain't exactly affordable that might turn people away from this otherwise rather ruddy good Moto mobile. Now, if you don't have the cash for any of these Motorola smartphones that we've discussed so far, well, maybe check out the Moto G84. It costs just £250 here in Blighty, and yet you still get a snazzy leather-style back with plenty of vibrant colour options. Again, that OLED display is a proper eye-pleaser, maxing out at 120Hz and backed by stereo speakers for a merry old Netflix session. You've got a big old beefy 5000 mAh capacity battery again, so again the Moto G84 certainly should not be dead by dusk, although the charging is a bit slower now at just 30 watts. And this smartphone is powered by the creaky old Snapdragon 695. Certainly no one's going to be dribbling into their neck flesh thinking about all that raw power, but it is good enough for gaming on Call of Duty, PUBG, etc. And even Genshin Impact can kind of run on the lowest graphics settings. As for the camera tech, well, the Moto G84 sports a 50 megapixel primary sensor with optical image stabilization built in, and it's a perfectly okay-ish snapper. That stabilization helps out a wee bit in dimmer light, and for your everyday snaps you can get sharp, colourful results, as long as the conditions aren't too cack. Look past the limited software support and the Moto G84 is solid value, with a lovely stock Android vibe to boot. And for even less cash, if you're on a really strict budget, you can snaffle the even cheaper Moto G54, although this time we are talking proper basic specs. This plastic slab boasts water-repellent design so it can get splashed without exploding, and you've got all the usual features stuffed on here, including NFC, a headphone jack and micro SD support, plus Motorola's bonus bits. That 6.5-inch IPS screen is nothing special, but it supports 120Hz refresh, while the MediaTek chipset is just about good enough for everyday shenanigans and some light gaming, along with a bit of 5G support. The 5000 mAh capacity battery keeps you going all day too, no matter what you're up to. But charging is slow as balls, while the camera struggles in even mildly testing conditions. And last up, another great option if you want a stock Android smartphone but you're on a limited budget is Nokia. One of the best right now is the Nokia X30 5G, an eco-friendly mobile built from a fully recycled aluminium frame and mostly recycled plastics. Packed inside of this tree-hugging body is that Snapdragon 695 chipset, which once again does the job for gaming, while the 6.43-inch OLED display and the stereo speaker setup means good times when streaming a bit of the Disney Pluses or even your Uncle Spurt here on YouTube. And manufacturer HMD Global is offering 3 OS updates in total, taking you up to Android 15. It's another planet-saving measure that means you don't have to ditch your smartphone after just a year or two. And here in Blighty, you got 3 years warranty support as well, so no worries if it muffs up. The 50MP camera features built-in optical image stabilization, and it's one of the better snappers found on a Nokia smartphone, working well even in quite low light, if again not quite up to those pixel standards. And like some of its mid-range rivals, this Nokia blower is water resistant, and while the 4200 mAh capacity battery isn't as big as some of the competition, it'll still happily see you through a full day of intense use. Sadly no wireless charging support on this thing though. The Nokia G60 5G is another respectable everyday smartphone for just 300 quid, with the added bonus that it's mostly constructed from recycled materials, so making one doesn't tit up the planet as much as other phones. And once again, you've got a few years of OS and security software updates, you won't have to hoy it in the bin too soon. The Nokia G60 is powered by Qualcomm's Snapdragon 695, so once again this phone breezes through most tasks with a spring in its step and doesn't disintegrate if you try playing games either. That 6.58-inch screen is mere IPS tech sadly, but it's not a bad panel, still quite poppy, if not quite as bright as I would have liked. Battery life is once again fantastic, and like other budget blowers like the Moto G54, you've got the added bonus for headphone jack and expandable storage. And while the Nokia G60 5G isn't a patch on the Pixel and quite a few others here for photography, it's still fine as long as the lighting isn't being a proper dick. Strong contrast and dim conditions are not this phone's friend. So there you have it, my lovelies. There's my pick of the very best stock Android smartphones right now that I've personally tested and reviewed. But have I missed out your own personal favourites? Well, clue me in as to what a massive tosser I am in the comments below. Let us know what your own picks, your own favourites are. For more on the latest and greatest tech, please do poke subscribe, ding that notifications bell, and have yourselves a ruddy, wonderful rest of the week. Cheers everyone, love you!